Tommy Curran, I'm sure you saw the reports. Micah Parsons is now a Packer. My first question was going to be, should or could the Patriots get in on the pursuit of Micah Parsons? But what is your reaction to the trade now that it's already happened?
I never thought that the Cowboys would end up parting with him. It's just, to me, you have one of the best players in the NFL, and he attracts eyeballs. And as Jerry Jones has said, he doesn't mind any attention, good, bad, or indifferent. So to me, it's surprising that they're going to move on from their most dynamic player and their biggest attraction. That's tough to be America's team with, God bless him, but Dak Prescott is not going to move the needle tremendously. He's probably a top 8 to 12 quarterback. So to me, it's surprising that they couldn't come to some kind of a resolution, and it's an eye-popping contract of what the hell is that going to be, like $43 million a year? And the first report might end up being a little inflated, but still it's an insane amount of money. As for the Patriots, sure, I'm sure they could have come up with some kind of a package to do that. But to me, they didn't, obviously. And do you kick rocks over it, or do you say, look, they're more than a Micah Parsons away? I guess there's two ways of looking at it. I'm in a deferential mood, I think, in terms of what the Patriots are doing personnel-wise, because they're still in the shallow end of the pool.
You know what, Tom? Let's just go to the Patriots. I mean, it was pie in the sky thinking they'd get Micah Parsons anyway. So, but just I'm trying to think if I've ever seen a team, the original cut down with 53 players, their roster, and then a day later, two of the players they were outright released, and Javon Baker and Kendrick Bourne. Have you ever seen anything like that in the past with the Patriots? And what do you make of them releasing those two wide receivers?
I think you could just attribute it to the fact that they're not really a great team depth-wise. So players maybe 32 through 53 are interchangeable, and it's not a surprise that when you're that shallow in terms of depth, you're going to find guys who are released by other teams who might be better or more pertinent than the guys you have. For instance, in signing the cornerback that they signed, that player's a gunner and a jammer on special teams, and they're teaching Javon Baker how to do that. Now, Baker, could certainly welcome back to the practice squad if he hasn't already, if he doesn't get claimed. So you can still use him as a developmental player in terms of wide receiver or gunner. But to me, it's attributable to how untalented they are. And really, Ted, in 2000, I remember Scott Pioli and Bill Belichick, I believe, and I don't know if this is an apocryphal story or not, but I think you guys might have gone with 51 players initially.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Absolutely. They did not have
players because
they didn't have enough players to fill out the roster.
Wow. I didn't remember that. Wow. Okay. That's crazy.
So it happens.
Yeah. It does. It does indeed. So, Tom, I wanted to ask you about the waves you sort of made when you jumped on the Callahan podcast, talking about Jakobi Meyers and Steph Diggs. Did you say? Correct me if I'm wrong, sir. Did you say you would flip flop Meyers for Diggs right now?
Sure, there's upside to that conversation. Absolutely. I'm not saying, my God, 100% all the time. It depends what you want and how much you forecast each player being relevant to you for the next 3 years. If you made a move for Jakobi Meyers, brought him aboard, you could certainly, he's turning 29, figure that he can give you 3 years of service. He's a durable guy. He understands how to work in this system. He's dependable, great work ethic. And Steph Diggs, obviously, if you want a guy who might get you 1,200 yards, Steph Diggs would be a much better guy to bet on. But how long will Steph Diggs be here? Is he here for a year? What kind of condition is he going to be in relative to the ACL? Not physically. I think that he's in very good physical condition when you see him move. But you could certainly make the argument to make that flip. The Raiders get a player for this year that they could use. And, sorry, my thingy's talking.
Hello.
Got to get where you're getting,
so,
guy.
To me, there is absolutely merit to considering that trade. But as I said, it's not, oh, my God, 100% every single time you have a chance to do it, you do it. The waves made, I think people are anxious for the season to start. We're anxious for the season to start. So if somebody becomes available, who I've talked about to you guys several times in the offseason prior to Diggs coming here, who I thought would be a good fit for them to make a trade at $10 million and give him a new contract, then yeah, absolutely entertain that conversation.
Tom Curran, NBC Sports Boston, with us here on WEEI Afternoons. And I know you referenced the lack of talent for the swift departure of some of the guys that were initially on the roster, but it also seems like with Kendrick Bourne, there was kind of more to it. There was money, there was loyalty and personal feelings, and now he's gone to social media and talked about it's not money, but you need to know your value. What is your understanding, I guess, to that total story with Kendrick Bourne and how that went down?
Well, he's hurt right now. He is a player who is probably not here for the long haul. Kayshon Boutte's probably a better player right now. Doesn't get hurt quite as often. That's not Bourne's fault. Kyle Williams, you'd have to look at him as a player that would be more relevant as a downfield receiver. The role just is not obvious, and the duration of how long Bourne will be relevant here isn't great either. So I don't begrudge Kendrick Bourne for saying I'm still a pretty good player, when I'm out there, because I think he is. But I think we're talking about players 35 through 53, and if it was someone else, like I would have been more in an uproar had they moved on from Anthony Jennings. That's a really good player who's healthy and can be productive. I wouldn't want to see them turn their back on a player who I think can absolutely provide something to their defensive line and their edge group. So to me, I liked Bourne. I thought he was a good player. He was extremely effective in 2021. He was effective early in 2023 before he got hurt. But I see why they made the move.
Hey, Tom, I'm curious what you think that how the Patriots feel about the current status of this team. I just, you listened to Mike Vrabel's presser yesterday. I don't know. He seemed kind of lethargic and just down. Just didn't just have the energy that he's had, and you wonder if he feels like his team is where he wants it. What's the sense that you get from talking to people over there about how they feel about their team going into the week one here?
I think they're optimistic, but I really found what he said on the Greg Hill show Monday as being incredibly instructive as to how he actually feels about where the team is. And that is, we will go to great lengths to improve the team. Not we have gone to great lengths so far, or we have still some work to do, or, we feel great, but there's still some tweaking. No, we will go to great lengths to improve the team. And I don't know what great lengths will be out there to avail themselves. Micah Parsons would have been the greatest of lengths to go to. But that comment there, that phrase within an answer that Mike provided, I thought was very telling to me. I think that as he probably and the rest of the staff looked at what they have on their team and made determinations, they might have looked at tight end and said, man, if Hunter Henry goes down or Austin Hooper goes down, we're into Jack Westover. They might have looked at linebacker and said, we have a converted guy in Marte Mapu who's going to be our fourth off-ball linebacker. We don't know what's going on with Tavai as a media group. I'm sure they do. But there are spots within their roster where they have the second highest paid player on the team in terms of cap space is Kyle Duggar, and he's a backup at this point. Keon White has not developed. He's been passed by Caleb on Chase on. Not developed, but he's not developed at the rate I think that they would have hoped given where he started the offseason. So to me, they're probably being realistic and saying, wow, we still have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of people who say we're pretty good. We might be better than we were, but there's a lot of work still to do. And that's one last thing I'll say on that. When Mike, prior to taking the job, he did an interview with The Athletic, and he said he was looking for three things in his next destination. One of them was a quarterback that they could either develop or had a path to finding one. They have one. One of the other things that he mentioned, though, was to find an owner with realistic expectations about what the team and the arc of the team will be. So for every time we hear Robert speak about the optimism he has for this season and how much better they'll be or how excited he is, we've heard that in 2022 and 2023 and 2021. So I think that Mike is smart to kind of measure and manage the expectations a little bit.
So, Tom, Christian Gonzalez was absent again from practice today, or at least he was not available or seen by the media during their access portion. Tell me, with 10 days to go and that injury having taken place several weeks back, where I should be on the panic meter.
I honestly don't know. I wish I could tell you how his hamstring feels and what his availability will be. I think when it happened, we all agreed, well, he's your best defensive player, probably in terms of reputation and production last year. So take your time and wait until the beginning of the season and don't push it. But as time passes and he's not on the practice field, inevitably that notion of, taking your time, people start to toe tap and look at their watch and say, isn't it time he's out there? Well, yeah. And I'm surprised, or I'm not surprised. You're just curious. And I think everyone has a right to be curious if the best defensive player is going to be ready for week one, and Jakobi Meyers. So to me, it's certainly worth it. But I have yet to hear anything that says it's coming along really slowly. I mean, it was a hamstring, and he walked off with it. He didn't crumble to the ground like Patrick Pass back in the day. So it shouldn't be as diabolical an injury, one would hope.
Tom, I know it feels like it was a long time ago, maybe even water under the bridge, but we only talk to you every Thursday. What was your reaction to Mike Vrabel's Rats comment after the preseason finale, and then maybe his comments when he kind of laughed it off with the Greg Hill show earlier this week?
It felt pointed. I don't know if it was pointed at agents. I don't know if it was pointed at his own organization and personnel department. I don't know if it was Mike just being Mike, Ted, and just casting throwing a rock in the water just to see the ripples. But it's interesting. I think that we all understand that we're all doing our job in terms of trying to find out as much information as we can to let people know this is where the team stands right now. And I think that Mike and his team there understand that that's how it is. But, the one voice notion that Bill espoused was pretty good for a long time. And what got out, they wanted to get out generally, not 100%. But it'll be interesting to watch that as it unfolds, because frequently now we've already had, there's a report, and then Mike is asked about the report and says, that's news to me. And it's not news to him. But he's sending that message that, I don't know if you guys know what you're talking about exactly. So it's an interesting interplay. I don't think he's about to, fumigate the place to get rid of the rats. But it at least reminds people that, we want to try and keep our business a little close to the vest. So that was my reaction to it.
No doubt, it sounded pointed. I totally agree with you, Tom. Just taking a look at the free agents. I mean, they brought in a lot of free agents. Steph Diggs, Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, Morgan Moses, Robert Spillane, and all those guys. It's kind of like I thought I would hear more from them. In training camp. I know they don't play these guys in preseason games, but you just didn't see Carlton Davis out there much, or Morgan Moses out there, or Steph Diggs out there. And when Milton Williams was out there a lot, and Spillane, you didn't hear them really showing out. So do you have any concerns with any of those guys or just how they're going to play for the Patriots? And are you hearing anything on what they would think about those guys' impact so far on the team?
I think they're really positive about all the guys you mentioned, Diggs included. So it's so different now with the 3 preseason games and the joint practices. Williams is out there all the time. Seems to be a factor when I'm watching him.
Okay.
Moses, he's a 34-year-old tackle. He should be more stable than the guy who was there before. But I don't think he's probably in the upper echelon of right tackles in the league at this juncture. But to me, I withhold judgment until I see an actual game and the performance of these guys. I think that they're extremely high on Spillane, and I thought he made a lot of plays and was very obvious. It's just so interesting the way the off-the-ball linebackers are used now in this defense compared to how they were used, in the not-so-distant past, even with Mayo. Tavai and Bentley were major cogs in that defense, and obviously Hightower, yourself, guys who throughout the years were major factors. Now It's like the very slim cream filling between the secondary and the defensive line is this group of linebackers. So it'll be interesting to see how they're used and how active they are. But I know that Spillane has been a tough guy to miss when you're out there watching practice. Would you agree with that, Andy?
Yes. Yeah. I think he's going to be just fine. Yep.
Good football player. Last one from me, Tommy. We talked about it a few weeks ago. A little bit worried about the rookie kicker. I thought maybe Parker Roma had beat him out, but you know what? Young kickers, who I think you said on our show, stink or make you nervous. Borregales got the kicking job. How do you feel about that?
I hope he does a good job, because we're probably going to have a lot of 41-yard field goals to attempt. I mean, that's the thing is, who cares about 58-yarders? Just make them from 35 to 50, because that's realistically what kickers do now. Is they should be around 90% or above, makes. I would have to open up, NFL Jesus and take a look at all the stats and see what the make rate is. But I think most guys are around 90% when you're having a good year. So just make your kicks. And until he is a guy who makes kicks regularly from inside 45 yards, hands are going to sweat when he takes the field. You hate to have that, I think, when you have a team that was as bad as the Patriots were, both in the red zone, in goal-to-go situations, and on third down last year. You're going to face a lot of occasions when you're faced with something, and you don't want them to have to be on the 33-yard line saying, can he make a 50-yarder here, or do we have to go for this on 3rd and 5? And they're going to need 3 frequently. They'd like more, but they've got to be able to put up 3 when you can and not have empty possessions, and a lot's going to fall on Borregales.
Tom, you're a TV guy, so I know you pay attention to fashion. So before we get you out of here, I guess I got to get your reaction to the rivalry jerseys for the Patriots. Thoughts?
They look like the Colts jerseys.
That's what
they
people
look like
say.
Colts colors.
So
Did anybody else say that?
Yeah, I've seen that online. Yeah.
The UNC Detroit Patriots.
What are we doing? I mean, it's just moving more merchandise, moving product.
That's right. It's business, baby.
More things. So, I mean, I was never a massive Pat Patriot guy, and I know that most people really love the blood red and the white helmet and, the guy squatting. But the more I look at that, the simplicity of it was, I don't even like these jerseys with the goofy stripes on the shoulders. I've never liked them. So, I don't know. Ted, did you like those royal blues that Parcells switched you guys into?
Nope. Hated them. Couldn't stand them.
Yeah.
My least favorite.
The white Patriots uniforms, when they are in the old school ones, are my favorite.
Yeah, from the Super Bowl in '96 with the big Pat Patriot on the shoulders.
Yeah, I like that one. That's the one I like.
I like that one too.
All right, Tom. Well, we'll talk to you about some real football next week. We'll be getting ready for the season opener. Can't wait. Put all this to rest. No more fashion or trades or anything.
Ashton Genty beats Travion Henderson.
Ooh, nice.
What do you like?
Nice. I like the hype. All right, Tom, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, buddy.
Thanks,
See you.
Tom.